All right. So, people, welcome once again to PW OnlyIAS English channel. Now, GS2 paper that's over, and we are going to see. Good afternoon, Ria. We are going to see the nature of the questions that have come here, as well as what is the trend analysis of the last few years. As usual, without any failure, if you really look at it, Indian polity 9, 9, 9, 10, 9, 9. The last 3 years, it's around 10 questions. Getting the point here. So, overall importance, if you see, 10 questions is guaranteed. 9 to 10 questions is guaranteed in Indian polity. So, when people say, sir, this year prelims polity, they did not ask anything. It doesn't make any sense for the simple reason that you need to literally sit and study because it is very, very important. The other aspect that I would like to mention here is obviously some questions which were actually supposed to come for prelims, what like we expect it to come for prelims, that as usual have been asked for mains. So when it comes to the material or reference point, again the same thing is what I would tell you. For your fundamentals, it's always Lakshmikant. There is no doubt about it. And then it is current affairs. Now, current affairs, when we say, it is not just about the news. It is also about what is the conclusion for this problem or what is the solution for this problem. Clear? Nirupama, Srinivas, Pavitran, good afternoon. Let us take each question one by one now. Right to privacy relating to self-identity is very dear to every human being and well protected under Article 21 of the Constitution. In this context, examine the effect of the amendment in 2026 to the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019. Now, a typical question. This is, see, if somebody tells me, sir, we never expected such a question from Article 21, they have not gone through the previous year questions. This is where I have always told you, PYQ is very, very important. Now, I have, for anybody who is starting with polity, they should know by now that Article 19, Article 21, these are repeated topics. One or the other way, a question on this you are bound to get. So earlier they had asked questions like, what are the major judgments that have contributed to the evolution of Article 21? Alright, so Article 21 is a very important fundamental right. There is no doubt about it, and that is what the first statement says. So you can say Article 21. Now, that you could have started your answer with what is Article 21, right to life is very important, this, that, etc. There are so many judgments starting from Mehta case onwards or to this case onwards, this to this. Many judgments are there which have brought importance to Article 21. You can go like that. There is nothing wrong with it. But this is where you have to be very careful about, arey bhai, what is the weightage? 10 marks. So it would be very better, or largely it would be recommended that you hit the nail on its head. Get right into it. Maybe say a very brief intro for Article 21 and then say what is the importance of it. Then talk about what do you mean by transgender and which ruling in particular, that is Nalsa versus Union of India in 2014, recognized gender self-identification as integral to dignity autonomy under Article 21. You can write that. That is in 2014. That is the background for this. Then the next question comes, so what is there in this particular amendment of 2026 transgender persons? So amendment and effect. Self-identification, express the right to self-perceived gender identity has been removed. Shifts recognition towards state validation. For that, there is a medical board. There is a narrower definition of trans man, trans woman and gender queer categories has been removed explicitly. May restrict recognition and welfare access. Now the problem here is because most of you again, and I have hardly seen any newspaper even writing that other side of the story. Everybody will write, trans people, their rights, we should protect it, etc. Those of you who have attended my current affairs class, I have mentioned it there also. See, this self-identity, that is, you can choose what identity you want irrespective of the fact whether you are a male or female. That is what self-identity matters. That is this self-identification. So if I wake up tomorrow and I say, oh wow, I am a woman, wow, then that's it. I have all the features and body parts of a male, but I just wake up in the morning and I wear a sari and a blouse and I say, I am a woman. NALSA ruling actually allows that. But the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019 says, not so fast. It needs to be certified. It needs to be validated. Now, the overall material or content, if you see what is largely available in the platform, in none of that newspaper, anywhere they have mentioned what is the downside of it. Because generally this thing is there in our country. Be liberal in your ideology. Be liberal in your ideology. What liberalism can lead to, nobody thinks. So I mentioned it in my current affair class also. This gender self-identification created a crisis in Europe as well as in USA. Where in Europe, in UK, etc., they ended up telling that there are more than 250 genders. So earlier it was male, female, transgender, end of the story. Then queer, bisexual, asexual, etc., and it goes on increasing. Trans, cis, binary, many terms and terminologies where it literally creates trouble. I told you the example also. Woman teacher, lady teacher walked into a girls' school and she basically told, good morning girls. Complaint went against the teacher telling that, how dare she assume our gender. She was suspended. The teacher was suspended for simply telling, good morning girls. Where? In a girls' school. Board is girls' school. There she walked in, she said, good morning girls. For that a complaint went, how dare you assume my gender. Only after issuing a public apology in front of the whole school, etc., she was reinstated back. I'm not kidding. Getting the point? And now that content or material, as far as I have read any newspaper or any online material that I have read, that aspect has not been covered. It is covered in the problems associated with this gender crisis that has been mentioned, where it is there in USA, it is there in Europe. We can see it on a regular basis. The other issue I will tell you. So, being a man, your rank will be some 250 or 300, be it in any sport among other men. With men, when you compete, 250, 300 rank. Now, one fine morning when I wake up and say, oh wow, I'm a woman, I can immediately go and start taking part in women's sporting events. I can use women's bathroom. Seats reserved for women, I can go and sit. Getting the point here? This, I'm not kidding, this really happened. So with all the male body parts intact, you claim that you are a woman because of this so-called gender self-identification. You start competing in women's games, women's sporting events, and now guess what is your rank? Rank 1. Obviously, right. You're competing with women. Now, why women are also healthy, strong? Don't come at me with that. Biologically speaking, muscle density, bone density, both are higher for men compared with a woman. This created a like a very big pandemonium in the US and in the Europe. That is the reason why when Trump became the president, he just said that there are only 2 genders, male and female. Finished. End of the story. Europe is still struggling. That is the other side of the story that you're supposed to write for this answer. Got the picture here? You're not simply supposed to write the whole left narrative here. You're also supposed to say, idea, let it be greatest idea of the world, but if it has a drawback to it, you are supposed to mention it. Got the point here? It is not at all necessary that you have to write intro, ye hai body. That is not necessary. This we are giving it for you so that you will be able to understand it better. So you will write about the act, you can write about its effect, the amendment, what is the amendment about, and what are its effects. What is the positive side to it? What is the negative side to it? What the positive side is, obviously, it will lead to what? Proper clarification, proper data. One of the major drawbacks in our country is that we don't have data for anything. Getting the point here? We don't have data, proper data for anything. How many people are literally there in the country? How many youngsters are there? These are just estimates based on survey. So when you have it through state, when you have it, you will literally get to know how many transgenders are there, how many queer or this or that, whatever is there. And the other aspect, like I told you, the fact that narrower definition has been given, that is in a way very, very good. Because in USA, etc., have you seen that Pride month, gay month, one rainbow colored themed month is there, gay month, where you can dress up in any form you want. Grown men, big burly with hairy body, etc., wearing a bra or wearing a mini skirt and walking around. It is allowed. Apparently, it is part of their so-called gender self-identification. Getting the point here, it will actually lead to one big confusion. Taking it further forward, negative side obviously is what positive side is, because you will have data. What will be the negative side? Once again, it is through the state only you will get all your certificate, etc. So it will take its own sweet time. Bureaucratic delay, procedural delay. Plus, there could be prejudice, there could be stereotyping. They may face discrimination, they may face exploitation. That you can mention. That's all about it. Got the point? Not that these points, what is mentioned here, these are wrong or bad. Not telling that point here. State is controlling my identity, right? Why shouldn't it control? State is not controlling your identity. If I say I am a male, state should know that, na? Very simple question what somebody asked in an interview. I'm a man now, grown man now. Okay. I'm a grown man. And I claim that I'm a woman. And I walk into a ladies' toilet. How many women will be comfortable with my presence there? How many women? If I stand there and pull up my pants and adjust my belt, etc., will they be comfortable with the fact that a grown man is standing there in front of them, who is adjusting his pants or his underwear, and I am standing there claiming that, oh, I'm a woman? Will that be entertained? State has every right. State has every right. Just like when somebody enters into my home, I have every right to determine whether that person is male or female. My home, my rules. As no society can function without determining who is who, what is what. House won't run, man. Forget it. Forget a society. How your house won't run. How if you cannot determine who is the person standing in front of you, how will you even indulge in a conversation? Exactly, the women will beat. But in USA and UK, you cannot beat. That is what I'm telling you. In USA and UK, grown men walks into women's toilet and claim that I am a woman. That is why I'm using it. As simple as that. Inside these toilets, rapes have taken place. And many cases have got dismissed by telling that this person is only a biological male, but he is not actually a male. So he is incapable of rape. Case is dismissed. Male organ is there. He has committed a crime. None of that matters. Because he claimed himself to be a woman, he cannot commit rape. Court dismissed the case. This is the reality. I am not talking about any draconian rule if it goes to the extreme. You can sit and Google and see the cases what have got reported in this thing, US and Europe. I am not talking about any extreme case. You are also talking about an extreme thing only. That is, let anybody decide what they want. So how are we going to decide the sporting events then? Sports events then? How are you going to decide on reservations then? Which is again another topic of discussion. Female reservation in the parliament. How will you decide who is a female then? If I say, I'm a woman, I want reservation, should I get that reservation right? Because I claim myself to be a woman? Then the parliament, the 33% again men only will be there who all say that they are just a woman. Ovia, for your sake, I hope you don't repeat this in your interview. That is all I would say. Come with data. Come with data, come with facts. Moving on. So these questions were there in our daily editorial. All right. These questions were there. Moving on. Mains wala Q&A bank discusses the evolving interpretation of right to privacy, fundamental right, and its implications on individual freedom. The second question, again pretty much a sitter I would say, because women as a class neither belongs to a minority group nor are they regarded as forming a backward class. In light of the statement, discuss the evolution of women's reservation from local bodies to parliament, 1950, 1992, 2023. Equality, participation, representation. How the thing has been evolving. Women's reservation, how it has evolved from the starting point. So that part you can write it here. Women's reservation from local bodies to parliament. Very direct question. 73rd, 74th expansion. Parliamentary attempts 2023, 2008. Current reservation will be implemented post the census, because like I told you, if you don't actually, now this is the answer to what Ovia was telling. The state gets to decide who is what the gender with the smiley. Why is that reservation is not implemented immediately? Because you don't have a track of who are the women in the country. Only when you get to know who are the women, how many women are there per constituency, only then you can implement this. Otherwise, you cannot implement this reservation. Any reservation for that matter. The simple thing, tomorrow if every man claims, I'm a woman, then they can use that while filing their UPSC or any government application form. They can claim to be a female, correct? Because it is self-perceived. And then not pay any fees. Simple. Getting the picture here. This is the reason why we need it. This is the reason why we need to know who is who, what is what. Without that one single policy, you won't be able to take it forward. 34,000 crore, 25,000 crore. These are the rough budgets of most of the direct cash to transfer, cash to account. Many schemes are there. That Yojana, this Yojana, Ladli Yojana, this Yojana, etc. are there. If all the boys or all the men starts to claim, we are women, money should go to their account. LPG gas connection. Directly. Then goes to the men again, who claim to be a woman. Imagine, just think about it. Imagine the Pandora's box there. See, once people see that there is a weak spot, they are not going to respect it. They are only going to exploit it. That is the reality of any society. All right. Moving further. Examine whether the constitutional office of the Lok Sabha Speaker has become vulnerable to partisan politics under the current anti-defection regime. What institutional changes are required to ensure the neutrality of the Lok Sabha Speaker in managing a polarized house? So this again, if you see, the speaker topic, this was sure shot. This was expected, because we always see this under anti-defection regime. What is the issue? So you can basically start your answer with what do you mean? What is anti-defection? What is 10th schedule? That you can mention. Then the rulings associated with it. Then this whole question of merger, that you can give the current example. AAP MPs, all that you can give. And this decision is, what if they bring back their identity as man in future? You can do that. Oh, I'm a male. Oh, I'm a female. Oh, mama. Me. They can keep doing that. This is happening as we speak. In Europe, in many places, it is happening as we speak. I'm not kidding. That is why people have literally kept their hands on their head, because women fought for so long to get their rights. And finally, what happened? Men who claim to be women are pushing them out from every public space. Because it is easy. You get so many benefits. Coming back to our question, so the rulings are the Supreme Court rulings. Which are those rulings? Quixote Holohan held that Speaker's 10 scheduled decisions are subject to judicial review. So that is there to keep a Quixote Holohan. That ruling is there to do it. But the current issue is one of merger. That is Raghav Chadda and the MPs in the Rajya Sabha. They have went and merged with BJP. The question of merger now has come to the Supreme Court. Like, what should be the decision taken here? Okay. So, merger question still with Supreme Court. That is one thing. But main highlight here is what should be the role of Speaker here when it comes to this bipartisan politics, because you have one ruling party, you have one opposition. What should the Speaker do here? Now, this is where you have to give suggestion or solution from international arena. Internationally, what best practices are there? This is where you give the example of UK. What is the example? So in UK, let us say if I am elected as the Speaker, the first thing that I have to do is I have to resign from my party. I am not kidding. In UK's parliament, if I am elected as a Speaker, the first thing I have to do is resign from my party, then sit as a Speaker. That is why in UK they call the Speaker. There is a tagline also for that. Once a Speaker, always a Speaker. Why is this done? To ensure neutrality. Now, let us keep the answer paper aside. Let us just talk some politics here. We have seen how Om Birla Saab, Honorable Speaker of Lok Sabha, what is his body language towards Mr. Narendra Modi as well as Mr. Amit Shah? What is his body language towards Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, or anybody from the opposition? Body language you take, you forget the rest of the thing. Body language itself, if you see, you can see chalk and cheese difference there. Why? He is my political boss. Both of them. I am the Speaker because they are there. They are the ruling party. I am from the ruling party. Whatever neutrality I claim, I won't be neutral because that is BJP. This is BJP. I am also BJP. Correct? In UK, that question doesn't arise because whoever gets elected as a Speaker will resign. That actually is your way forward. Getting the point here. This is the way you're supposed to write. Moving on. These are various the best practices UK model, all that. You can write it down from there. All are 10 marker, mind you. The only challenge here is to ensure that you confine it within 2 pages. Oh my God. Is the right to vote a fundamental right? Discuss the petition of the Election Commission of India while undertaking the revision of electoral roll. Can it also examine the question of citizenship of voters? Challenge is again to finish it within 10 marks. Right to vote, is it a fundamental right? Obviously, it is not a fundamental right. We know that it is only a constitutional statutory right given under Article 324 and 326. First part of the answer done. Discuss the position of Election Commission of India while undertaking the revision of electoral rolls. That is the whole entire newspaper since last year was filled with this special intensive revision. So, what do you write there? You straight away write what Supreme Court has said under Article 324. ECI has all the rights to do SIR. End of the story. Supreme Court has said. Done. Then comes the next part of the answer. And what is that next part? Revision. That is, SIR means what? To revise the electoral rolls, update it, remove the bogus voters, eligible voters, who are they, find it out, elaborate it a little. The next part is, can they decide on question of citizenship? Absolutely not. That also Supreme Court has said. Supreme Court can basically find out who is a voter and who is not a voter. This ECI can do by virtue of Article 324. But Election Commission of India has no constitutional authority to decide on matters of citizenship. This is decided by the central government by the Citizenship Act, which has been amended various times. Finished. Again, Supreme Court ruling is there for that. So when you mention that Supreme Court ruling, nothing is there beyond it. Got the point? Nothing is there beyond it. So can that data be used also? Supreme Court has set restrictions on it. So what is the final conclusion then? Separately, Act has to be amended again. Citizenship Act has to be amended again, so that even if central government wants to use this data of Election Commission of India, Citizenship Act has to be amended by the central government in the parliament, because only they are authorized to do it. Nobody else is authorized to do it. Clear? You end your answer. 10 marks it is. Straight to the point. Moving on. As usual, daily editorial mains answer writing program 7th July. See, even if this is just to tell you, okay, in our mains program, etc., this was there. But something that is repeatedly coming in the newspaper, you should take it for granted that by this is going to come. Clear, people? Moving on. Do constitutional bodies like NCSC, NCST possess adequate enforcement powers to ensure substantive social equality, suggest measures to enhance their institutional effectiveness? 15 marks. This is what I meant. So far, earlier, Attorney General of India used to come as a question. Powers of Attorney General of India, the jurisdiction, etc. Twice this topic was asked. Normally, when we were preparing, AGI related questions or these chapters, especially NCSC, NCST, NCPCR or women's body, none of this will come for what? Prelims. Sorry, mains. But UPSC changed that pattern. So I have said this in my class also. If Attorney General of India could be asked twice, what does it mean? All the constitutional bodies from UPSC, Election Commission of India, everything, NCSC, NCST, minimum you should know what are their powers, how their reports are tabled, what action is taken. At least that much you know. The retirement age, the number of members, even if you don't know that, nothing will happen. But because the question is what? Do they have enforcement powers? Actually, no. Because these bodies are largely advisory. Even the reports that is placed, it is placed in the parliament, it is placed in the respective state legislative assembly, and action, if it was taken or not taken, only that much is mentioned. The major problem being with all these bodies that they are largely were headquartered in the cities or in the capital cities, etc. Whereas most of the discrimination or problems that SC, ST people face, especially in the rural areas, etc., they are pretty much blind to it. What measures will you suggest for it then? What measures can you suggest? Well, like the other like the constitutional bodies, their reports, etc., should be taken up. They should take more active interest in the data, etc. Say, for example, prison manuals. Prison manuals have, what is it? In prison, I have told this to you. Jobs are allocated based on the caste, and SC/ST people who are there in the prison, they are generally given these cleaning tasks, etc. Because they are from SC/ST. Who observed this and who actually asked the entire prisons in the country, all the states in the country, to revise their prison manual? It was asked by the Supreme Court, not by NCSC, not by NCST. So that question comes then why are you, what are you sitting here for? Right under your very noses, in every prison in India, jobs are divided on the basis of their caste, with SC/ST getting the worst. What are you people doing? Getting the point here. So for this, what is required again? You need political will. You need finance for this. Because be it NCSC, be it NCST, they don't have that much of freedom of finance. Money they don't have. So they have limited ability. So financial independence is necessary. Debate and discussion inside the parliament is necessary for improving the powers of NCSC, NCST. Got the picture here? Taking it further forward. These are all direct. That is why I'm not discussing it. Civil court like powers. The entire thing. 338, 338A. It is all the complaint inquiry policy and insight. Straight away from Lakshmikant it is. Straight away. Got the point? That means when you are studying for prelims, these policy oversight, etc., you can just skip it because nothing specific will come there for prelims purpose. Prelims purpose, you need what? Retirement age. How many members? Is it charged under the Consolidated Fund of India? Is it under vote? Who can be the members? Correct? These minute details you will have to remember. Mains perspective, those minute details are not important. It is largely the policy perspective that we need. So the difference in preparation, you should have it in mind while you are reading Lakshmikant. Got it? Timelines, empower, powers, all this. Discuss the position of the governor in the federal polity of India. What is the nature of his power while giving assent to a bill passed by the state legislature? Is he bound by the aid and advice of his council of ministers in all his functions? Classic sitter. Classic. Why? Repeatedly in the news. So what is the position of the governor? The main articles. Article 153. That question. Governor shall always act according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister, except in those matters where he or she can exercise her discretion. What are those matters? When there is no clear majority, when it is a hung legislative assembly, all that. Reserving a bill for the consideration of the president. What is the nature of his power while giving assent to a bill passed by the state legislature? He can give his assent, withhold his assent, reserve it for the president, deny assent completely, complete veto, absolute veto, that also they can do. So all those elements you will mention with example. Is he bound by the aid and advice in all his functions? Generally no. Where and all he is not bound to act like that. Even when he is acting as a chancellor of the university also, he is not bound to act. That one additional point you can mention. One additional point. Generally when people write the answer, they will only stick to the bill aspect. But this one additional point you can mention, that while he or she is exercising his role as the chancellor of universities, they are not bound by the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Then give the example of the NEET bill, Tamil Nadu, reserved. But then president struck it down. Give a couple of examples like that. Your answer is complete. Clear, people? Any doubts here before I move on? Any questions? Now, this again, current affairs, we have discussed this. This also, technically speaking, if you have studied Article 21 properly, if you are prepared, this part also gets covered. If you really ask me, this question 12, along with that Article 21 question, what we saw at the beginning of our discussion, both are two sides of the same coin. Because ultimately, the so-called passive euthanasia, living will, both of them are related to what? Both of them are related to right to die with dignity, which comes under Article 21. Passive euthanasia is your Aruna Schonberg case. Living will is what we saw very recently. Forgot the gentleman's name. Common Cause versus Union of India. Yeah, living will, this one. Now, what is judicial legislation? This judicial legislation, specifically, I have not covered it as judicial legislation in my classes. I have covered it in another way, that is judicial activism / overreach. Again, a very repeated topic in UPSC. UPSC has this habit. See, obviously, there are only a handful of not handful, let us say a selected list of topics for UPSC Mains. UPSC has no other choice other than ask in and around it. So this is the same part where judiciary is coming forward and judiciary is making a law. Judiciary is making the law. So what it is? You give some examples for it. Even Vishaga guidelines, classic example, which led to POSH. Verdicts of apex court. What is passive euthanasia? What is living will? That much you wrote. But then add one more point to it. Even how it has evolved today. Where are we standing today? Passive euthanasia is over, living will is over. Today what it is? Even withdrawal. Not royal. Withdrawal of the medical support. That is artificially, if a person's life is being extended, and if you withdraw the medical support, that person will die, means go ahead. That is where the current ruling is standing. That will be your conclusion part of your answer. These are simple things and tricks that UPSC does, because UPSC will just give till here, just to see whether you will go over and beyond what is given and give an update on where are we standing today. Passive euthanasia is basically, now somebody is in total vegetative state. They are not able to respond to anything. Then it's like a mercy killing. You allow them to die. That is the point there. Now this started off with the Aruna Schonberg case. In exceptional cases under strict judicial supervision, permitted withdrawal of life support for patients in a persistent vegetative state. So she was a rape victim. Active euthanasia is not allowed. Active euthanasia is what a very healthy individual, simply fed up with life, is telling, I want to die, and state is supporting it. Oh, you want to die? Please come here. This is allowed in Switzerland. There is a private company that is running this whole program there. So there you have pods. Pods are there. Pods means it is like one glass cover and one bed. You go inside, you lie in the pod. They will close that glass shield. Then they'll start pumping gases. First you will fall asleep. Then you will get into unconsciousness. Then you will slowly, oxygen that this gets cut off. Within half an hour, you're dead. You will not feel any pain. Getting the point here. Even Switzerland, some people even criticize Switzerland, and this will lead to some, tourism, suicide tourism and all. Got the point? Because if anybody is feeling, okay, why should I live in this world, some depression, something, and if they have the money also for it, they can go to Switzerland and die. That is active. Got the point here? So this is done. Moving on, how has Indian federal framework been successful in accommodating regional and cultural diversities? Highlight the role of asymmetric federalism and suggest measures to make dispute resolution mechanisms more effective. Regional, cultural and cultural diversities. Indian federal framework. Well, first of all, you can, as usual, start with the fact that the word federalism has not been used anywhere in the constitution. India is quasi-federal. All right, we have an indestructible union of destructible states. All that you can put it in your intro part. Any one or all, depends. Depends on your writing talent, everything. That will cover your intro part. Now, this asymmetric federalism means what? That means for each region, there is, depending on its speciality or administrative convenience, you are making different laws. So at the local level, if you see, we have Panchayati Raj institutions plus municipalities. We have PESA, Panchayati Raj extension to scheduled areas. For the 5th as well as the 6th scheduled areas that you will mention. We have tribal councils, hill councils plus tribal councils to give more autonomy to their interests, etc. Within the constitution, again, if you see from article 371 onwards, there are multiple provisions where, for Nagaland, etc., special provisions are there. Where we are trying to protect their culture there. This is one set. What is the other set? Through agencies, say for example, through Finance Commission. So 15th Finance Commission, basically there was a major criticism that southern states received secondary treatment. Southern states, they are the ones who are contributing more on taxes, but they are getting very less in terms of what? Taxes share from the center. What did they do in the 16th Finance Commission? They rectified it. How did they rectify? Based on the contribution to the national GDP. Yeah. That also you can mention, Pranav. Nothing wrong with it. Based on the contribution to national GDP, they put that also as a factor. So the more you are contributing, you get a good share again. And this basically saw southern states' share increasing compared to the 15th Finance Commission recommendation. Niti Aayog, aspirational districts program, more than 112 districts or something all over the country. GST Council, Interstate Council, Interstate River Disputes, Supreme Court's intervention. All these policies are there. So the challenge would be to put all of this in that answer. How to make it more effective? Obviously through debate and discussion. Making forums effective for that, because forums, when we make effective, again, don't forget, we can mention interstate council is there, DGP's conference is there, governors conference is there, all that we can mention. But never forget the main player here. Who is the main player? Rajya Sabha, Parliament. At the same time, for regional aspiration's sake, we should not lose the national character. So states demanding exit from NEET or separate statehood demands, all these needs to be, discussed and debated. Not that, oh, it's a regional aspiration, we will immediately grant it. Not like that. Because when it comes to these demands of statehood, especially statehood, what is most important factor there to be considered first? National security. That is the reason why statehood demand of J&K is still delayed. It is a union territory with a state legislative assembly. But statehood demand has not been given. Ladakh's demand to come under 5th schedule, I guess, that again has been put on hold. This is the reason. Implementation of PESA, that also is put on hold. Why? Development is the reason. Got the point here? So this way you will conclude your answer. You will balance it. You will not just give that one-sided verdict. Only then you will be able to put it forward. Any doubts here, people? Moving further, examine how the separation of powers is practiced in India compared to the rigid presidential model of the USA. In this context, compare the actual authority of Indian Prime Minister with that of the President of USA. So, I have told you, in our country, we have a system of cooperation and coordination among all the three organs of the government. They are legislature, executive, and judiciary. I already told you, if you take our legislature itself, legislature is what? Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. In this Lok Sabha, this is your Council of Ministers plus Prime Minister, and that is actually what? Your government. That is your government, the executive. So executive and legislature have to cooperate here. In USA, that is not the case. It is complete separation. Legislature alag, executive alag, judiciary alag. That is the reason why even controversial laws or controversial rights are still remaining intact. For example, it is the right, I have discussed this in my polity class actually. Current affairs, I'm not sure whether I discussed it. In USA, every US citizen has the right to bear arms. Why? It is a fundamental right. Even after all the gun violences that have happened in USA, most brutal, most bloody form of violences were 15-year-old boys, school boys. You know, they take a gun and go to the school, kill their classmates, kill their teachers. Assault rifle, machine gun, etc. they take and go. Even after that also, they have not changed the law. Got the point? So that is how it is. Why? Because it is all separate. It is not easy. Judiciary will interpret things only from the perspective of fundamental rights. So even if you pass a law there, it is very difficult for, that is especially amending the constitution. If you make a law, it is very difficult to get it judiciary sanction for it. Got the point? This is how it is there in USA. In India, that is not the case. In India, if Parliament passes it, etc., and it has the support of the people, there is a very good chance that judiciary will approve it. There is a very good chance for it. Those are the fundamental differences. Then comes what? Prime Minister's powers, President's powers. Obviously, you start from where? Only twice they can become president, whoever it is. In India, there is no such limit. That means we only have to bear that moron Trump maybe for another 2.5 years maybe. After that, it is over. Thankfully, it will get over and we won't have to see any more of him after that. But here in India, there is no limit. You can keep going as long as you want. 4, 5. Can you remove the president of USA? It is not at all easy. Here, no confidence motion is there. If they lose the majority, it is game over. Getting the point here. That way you compare. Prime Minister, can he choose a panel of experts here to guide him and this thing? He can choose, nothing wrong with it, but generally he sticks to what? Bureaucrats. Prime Minister's office, National Security Advisor, then hand-picked ministers from his cabinet are the people who always surrounds the Prime Minister to give him advice. In USA, President can literally pick his friends and his family as his close secretaries to give him advice. Nobody can question him. Why you chose this fellow? Why you didn't choose that fellow? Nobody can question him. All right. Those are the simplest differences between the two. Indian Prime Minister, US President, all of that. Same thing. To what extent do pressure groups, social movements, and corporate lobbies deepen pluralistic democracy in India by representing excluded interests? Analyze whether the growing convergence of corporate wealth and political power pose a threat to the autonomy of formal democratic institutions. 15 marks. Very interesting question, to be very honest, because each point, if you take, pressure group, social movement, corporate lobby deepen pluralistic democracy. To what extent do they do that? So pressure groups itself, if you take, what is pressure group? Directly they are not a political party. Alright, they are not a political party, but they can influence the outcome of politics as well as a policy decision. Best example, farmer pressure group, how they pressurize the government into taking a U-turn on farmers bill. So in that sense of the world, yes. Because all said and done, the three farm bills were introduced without actually a debate or discussion in the parliament or with the stakeholders. Correct? It was implemented, directly implemented. Farmer pressure groups put a pressure on it and government had to take a U-turn in it. This is the first point. What is the second point here? Social movement. Let us keep that to the last. Corporate lobbies deepen pluralistic democracy. Well, corporate lobbies can actually influence the government in policies, etc., because they do actually make contributions to political party. This was evident when through the electoral bond scheme, EBS scheme, struck down by the Supreme Court, that you will mention, but it literally gave an idea as to what is the donation given by corporates to various political parties in India. Practically, see, pressure groups are somewhat political when you say, you can say it like that. They can influence policies. They are not directly taking part for election. That is what I said, that definition I was talking about. Now, number 3 is what? The third one, social movements. Modern day Chipko movement, which took place in Uttarakhand. Locals went and hugged the trees to prevent the government or the administration from chopping it off. That is a social movement, which actually led to representing excluded interests and deepened pluralistic democracy. Here again you can mention what started as a social media campaign eventually led to protests at Jantar Mantar, which led to the resignation of the education minister. You can mention this. I will tell you why. Why you can mention this? Because it is there in the public domain. We are not talking anything political here. And Cockroach Janata Party, as of now, still it has not registered, or when this protest at least was happening, it had not registered itself as a political party with the Election Commission of India. Alright, look at the next part there. Whether growing convergence of corporate wealth and political power poses a threat to the autonomy of formal democratic institutions. It can pose. That is where Supreme Court intervened and struck down electoral bond scheme. Thus, corporates can influence policies. So it can. So there should be transparency in the donations that are received by the political party. Correct? That you will mention. What about the social movements? What is the problem there? See, social movements, it is good. As long as, like I have said this earlier also, protest is peaceful. Uttarakhand protest, hugging the tree. Did any other can't happen there? I mean, you people would have followed it at least in social media, or you would have followed it, at least in the papers or whatever. They basically, they were very clear. Don't cut the trees. We won't allow you to cut the trees. The locals stopped the administration. It did not resort to violence. Student protests in Jharkhand did not result in violence. All right. What about CJP's protest? Protest. You have all the right to protest as long as it is within the framework of the law. If a place has been allocated to you for protest, you're supposed to protest there only. You cannot simply go ahead and say, march to the parliament or Sansad Chalo. That is illegal. Because that, if you are doing, then that is actually threat to the autonomy of formal democratic institutions. So I don't like something. I and a group together tomorrow decides, okay, chalo, Karnataka, Legislative Assembly, march to the Legislative Assembly. Let's get lost. Let the cops get lost. I don't care about the cops in Karnataka. Can I do that? You have every right to be unhappy with the government. There is nothing wrong with it. But what is the procedure for it? You're unhappy with the government. You can take the matter to the court. You're unhappy with the government. You can show it in the next election. But if every crowd, every pressure group starts to put up only their point, only my point is right, only my point is true, all the formal institutions, whatever we have created in the country, will lose its importance. Policies then won't be decided in the parliament, it will be decided on the streets. And in streets, when things have to be decided, on what basis it will work? Might is right. Not debate, not deliberation, not discussion. Got the picture here? That is what you will write there. This is actually a hidden trap wala question it is. Because this answer when you give, you are going to write obviously your right to protest or your right to, this actually comes under Article 19. Correct? That you mentioned. You go on to say that protest should be allowed, police should not do this, police should not do that. If you maintain that narrative, one-sided narrative, it is easy for the examiner to understand that you have an activist mindset. Instead, you say protest is all fine as long as it is within the framework of the law, because it is based on what? Permission granted by the cops. It is not a blanket right, because that is what even Supreme Court said. You are right to protest. Now people are protesting here. NEET or IIT JEE or whichever other exam. Next can't what it will be, we don't know, right? They are protesting. I want to go for my job. Their right to protest should not interfere with my right to livelihood. Because that will lead to, they are trying to impose Article 19. But in that process, they cannot violate my Article 21. In that process again, they cannot actually do whatever they want and go to any high security zone that they think, they will go there and do whatever they want. That you cannot do. Because today some of you feel no, that is the right way. In each part of the country, imagine it is happening. It will be total cacophony. Discuss the role of pressure groups in making India vibrant democracy while highlighting the issues in their functioning and way ahead. Mains wala book. This again, pressure groups wala topic again. This is not a new topic. This had come earlier also. But ensure that you write a very balanced answer. There is nothing wrong in write to peaceful, unarmed protests based on the permissions given. Getting the point, because the latest last Supreme Court ruling, if I remember it right, up to 1,000 people means you can protest at Jantar Mantar. More than that means you should take permission for to protest in Ramlila Maidan. Because more than that, Jantar Mantar cannot accommodate more than 1,000 people at a time. So then you should go to Ramlila Maidan. These are the designated area of protest. Somebody says, no, Prime Minister's residence only I should go and protest. cannot be allowed. High security zone. Getting the point here. Even right to freedom of movement is not a complete, absolute, fundamental right. It is subjected to restrictions, especially national security. All right. Can we write your practical exam? Whatever is there in newspaper, without being political, that you can write. Where you are not taking any side. So, for example, I gave the example of Raghav Chadda from AAP. Question of merger is still pending with the Supreme Court. Can you write that? Absolutely yes. Because I'm not supporting AAP there, nor am I opposing AAP. Raghav Chadda MP from Rajya Sabha used a provision within the anti-defection law to merge with the BJP. Correct? Now that question of merger is pending there. And this merger provision is what is being utilized right now by most of the political parties to escape scrutiny even from the Supreme Court. Clear? Write that much. End of the story. As long as you don't give any particular political narrative where you're either supporting the ruling party or opposing the ruling party, opposing the opposition, you're safe. All right. Any other questions, people? SRIJAN's Prelims plus Mains 2.0 batch 2027 English starts from 2nd September 2026. It's available at a price of 10,000 rupees now. I saw somebody telling 2027. Main strategy for 2027. I would first suggest you to join this batch. That is what I would suggest you. Because that will actually fine tune you. Otherwise also, even if you are planning to prepare it like by yourself, only 2 cardinal rules here. Your basics. Make it very, very thorough. Polity as a subject, know the basics very well. Which article, what article. That means cover it from Lakshmikant. Then the next aspect is what? Next aspect is current affairs. Weekly, Saturday, 7 p.m. Please follow my current affair videos live. That is what I would suggest you. There is no high scoring optional as such. It all comes down to the individual. Good at both chemistry and maths. Chemistry to find material or coaching, it will be a little difficult. Maths you do get. Within PW also maths is there as an optional. So consider that. Because at some point or the other, you need somebody to handhold you. So in that sense of the word, go for maths is what I would say. Lam Kashif Shah. What will be the conclusion based upon like a conscience there is word restriction like not to harm public order, morality and national security. National security above all. Bottom line is that. Bottom line is that whatever pressure group etc. you are going to do, it should not, nothing should go about national security. And any exercise of fundamental right should not clash with another individual's fundamental right. So it should be balanced in that sense of the word also. That you mentioned. Supreme Court ruling it is. That is why Supreme Court basically has so much of noise pollution is there. Why should others? You have a problem. You are protesting. Agreed. But why should I sit and listen to this? Hi, hoi, all that noise. Why should I listen to it? That you will mention. See, bottom line I will tell you for all of this Supreme Court ruling. Even the right to protest also, that is what I told you, right? Supreme Court also said what? Peacefully you can protest. Cops have every right to follow a grade up action. That is why Supreme Court even detested, right? They said, no, we are not going to sit and watch these police videos. Why? Lathi charge is allowed. Lathi is allowed even using rubber pellet guns. That is also allowed. Graded response action it is. Based on the situation, you can use it. Getting the point here. This is how it is. We'll be joining Praram 2029. Devame, you're so young. Oh. I'm in class 11. You please complete your schooling. Pressure group, social movement, corporate influence over economic stability. That was not the question. The question was about whether it will affect the formal democratic institutions. That is the point here. Which optional have chance to get 400 plus marks? There is nothing like that. It all comes down to the individual capability and how interested you are in your this thing. Any optional, first and foremost cardinal rule is you have to do the PYQs thoroughly from 2013 onwards, both paper 1 and paper 2. On your worst days also, you are ready to invest in your optional. You are ready to study it, you are ready to read it, you are ready to revise it. Automatically you will see the result there. And understand one thing, it is not just your optional that determines your fate. Last year's result, I have told this earlier also, optional alone is not sufficient. GS1, GS2, 3, 4, essay, interview, everything matters. Everything matters. So you should be performing really well. Above 50% score you should get for all these. Interview, like I told you, leave aside the activist mindset. View things from a completely apolitical perspective and deliver your answers. Because they are looking for an executive, somebody who will follow the orders. They don't want Andolan types there. That much if you keep it in mind, you are going to end up in the service. आपको पता है ना मिस्टर विजय तलपति, please come and teach or make a video. Always lam. Oh, it's not lam. I am Kashif Shah. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, Kashif. That is the easiest way. See, the best way to stand apolitical is what? Go and quote Supreme Court ruling. End of it. That is the easiest way. Easiest way to answer anything. Anything that is tricky, quote the Supreme Court there. End of the story. All right. What is it, Anurag? Please repeat it. I am 12th PCM passed. I want to prepare for. How should I start? Please join a college first. And if you have the money for it, I would recommend you the Praram batch. You don't have the money, then in that case, please go ahead and start with NCRTs from 6th standard of all the subjects. 6th to 12th. Especially polity, geography, history. That much you do. Very good. IAS. What if they ask about opinion in interview? Same thing. Supreme Court ruling. Easily. Supreme Court ruling is only what you will quote there. They can sometimes ask you, do you think what CJP did is right? What CJP was doing is right? Do you think demanding an education minister's resignation from the streets, is it the right way to do it? They can all ask that. Getting the point here. They can ask such type of questions also. Personally, they will ask you, what will you do? First point, anybody and everybody have the freedom to form any association that they want. All right. Oof. Anybody can form any association that they want. That is the fundamental right. Correct? Number 2. Do they have the right to protest? Absolutely yes. Article 19. But the protest has to be peaceful. Largely it was peaceful, but then yes, it somewhere down the line, we cannot verify it even now because both the sides, police are giving one claim, protesters were giving one claim, and we only have media reports to depend on, which is not very reliable because each media will, everybody will try to tell their own story. So protest was there. Eventually, education minister resigned, and that was the end of the protest. Whether it is right or wrong, well, that is not just for me to say. Because if you ask me from one side, the protest led to minister's resignation. But should we lead everything to go by this way? This manner means the formal institutions, whatever are there, they will lose their importance. We cannot let everything to be decided at the street level. We can file petitions in the Supreme Court. We can file petitions with the concerned agencies. We can go and get an FIR filed. This is what we can do, and this is what we must do mostly. Then give that Uttarakhand ka example, give the Jharkhand protest ka example, give the example what happened in the state of Kerala. All that you can give. These are also protests. These are also other protests. Everybody can do it. But because one protest led to a minister's resignation, everybody shouldn't keep that blind faith now. Okay, if I protest, minister will resign. That's it. Present it that way. Beyond that, you don't have to say anything. Daily. Daily app why you need for current affairs. That is not required. Daily why you want. See, always focus on your fundamentals first. That is the most important thing to do. The static portion, Lakshmikant, polity, do all of that first. The rest of it comes later. If you have already completed your coaching, that should be enough. If you have the notes, please revise it. And when you write paper 1, try to include examples from paper 2. When you write paper 2 answers, include theory into it. That is what you should do there. Okay. Mm. Preparing for 28, studying 6th edition. All right. So now coming to international relations and governance. 3, 4. Consistent, more or less consistent it is. So let us look into those aspects now. You can continue with that version. See, largely the core and all will not change in Lakshmikant. Who is this? Jivita. That won't change. All right. Only the remaining we will see. analyze the advantages and limitations of the generalist structure of the Indian civil services in contemporary governance. Generalist structure. What do you mean by generalist structure? Generalist structure means it is not specific. It's not a very specific service. It is very, very general. All right. So, if you take our IAS service especially, this service, if you really see, this is jack of all trades, master of none. Correct? If you really look into it, this whole service, if you see, you can see them, it starts as a district collector. And some people may say you can end up as cabinet secretary, or you can end up as a chief secretary, or you can even end up as a principal secretary to the prime minister's office. All of that you can end up. Or maybe any other ministry also. So where you will end up, there is no idea, because that is how it is. That service is like that. It is a generalist service, not that, okay, because of your background, they are doing something. So a specific service, if you see, specialist service, if you take, what is that? Nandan Nilekani. First he was made in charge of what? UIDAI. Now he is being made in charge of what? NTA basically, to conduct the exams. Why? Because of his background. Technical background in, what is it? In the field of websites, computers, etc. Again, Infosys. So that is the reason he is there. So he is a specialist. Now nobody made any comments when Nandan Nilekani was being called into making this NTA more effective. Nobody actually criticized it. Why? Because that man was literally already has a track record of what? Giving us the very successful Aadhaar. And today what has happened? Today he is in charge of NTA. So advantages of generalist structure. What is the advantage? You can immediately put them anywhere you want. Anything that is not any legislation, anything where the law is a little weak, you can immediately put into the hands of the generalist, especially the IAS. So Waqf, when they made amendment to it, what did they do? They immediately gave, okay, let the collector decide matters. Citizenship, matters of citizenship. Very recently again, now what did they say? Let the district collector decide matters of citizenship. Land, let the district collector decide. Disaster management, let the district collector decide. So if you generally see anything and everything you take, with the exception of law and order, anything and everything you take, it generally goes to the IAS, the quintessential IAS officer. So what do they end up becoming? So it becomes your go-to. For the government, it is very, very easy. Because in the parliament, if you really see, debates and discussions are very, very less. In 15 seconds, 20 seconds, etc., or in 2 minutes, they are passing a bill. And when there is lot of confusion as to, or lack of clarity as to how will we implement this, it is directly expected what? The generalist government servants will implement it. That is the expectation. So advantages, they become jack of all trades because they get unlimited power now. Imagine, citizenship, collector will decide. Disaster, collector will decide. Relief, collector will decide. Rehabilitation, collector will decide. Development policies for panchayats and municipalities, again IAS officer will decide. So with the exception only of law and order, everything else, if you generally see at the district level, panchayat level, municipality level, whichever level you take, it is the IAS officer everywhere. Clear? What about the limitations part? It will lead to executive legislation. Executive legislation is what? IAS officer will decide what is the law. Where do IAS officers get so much of power, or government servants get so much of power? Because when the parliament made the law, or when the state legislative assembly made the law, they did not debate it properly, they did not discuss it properly. They are leaving it to the executive to decide. Let the government servants decide. MPs also don't care. That IAS will figure it out. IPS will figure it out. Now what happens then? You can interpret the law according to what you think is right. If everything goes well, you get the credit, or the government will take the credit. If anything goes wrong, you will be transferred. This is what happens in our country. And this is where IAS officers end up becoming very, very powerful. Because even the MP or MLA also won't know how to read or interpret it. It will be the IAS officers. So in this answer, basically, you need to put in the data with regard to what? Inefficiency of the parliament. Let us say 47% of MPs having criminal background, 33% of MLAs having criminal background, leading to ineffective laws or bills. Sorry, rather than bills, let us say laws or acts. And that leads to what? Delegated legislation. Delegated legislation means that law finally gets its full picture through the permanent executive. Permanent executive is the government servant. Actually, a public administration paper 2 material it is. For bad students at least will find this question very easy. Got the point here? This much you will write. Then what are the advantages, disadvantages, etc. Then yes, the problem here again is that, so one problem I told you, one problem is what? Too much of power in the hands of government servants, because they will decide. And that is a problem in our country. Ultimately, when you go to an MP or MLA with your trouble, even they will be like, hey, what the hell is this? They won't know the ABCD of it. Government servants only will be knowing how to interpret it. That is how they get their power from. What is the second issue here? Expertise. And what do you mean by that expertise? Expertise simply means they are not experts at the end of the day. So I want an effective mechanism for the exams to be conducted. So I brought Nandan Nilekani. Makes sense. What is the other issue? Like that, don't you think I should bring people who are the experts in each field for every problem in the country? So I want to revamp the school education system, means I shouldn't give it into the hands of the collectors. I should be getting people who are already having experience within managing schools or probably managing colleges. I should get such people there. Or very intellectual, very well read, studied people I should get. Correct? Because these are not experts. IAS officers are not experts. They only have experience or exposure working in different departments and ministries. That's it. That is not a criteria for actually putting them in anywhere you want. That you will write. When you leave everything to the bureaucracy like this, the major problem is it will take its own sweet time. Bureaucratic delay. That will affect the whole overall functioning of governance in the country. That is what you will mention. Clear? Transparency and accountability in governance are not about controlling corruption, but about creating the trust of stakeholders. Creating the trust of stakeholders in the policy process by following the rule of law and participatory governance. Transparency and accountability are not about controlling corruption, but creating trust of stakeholders in the policy process by following rule of law and participatory governance. Comment. Now this, I have always told you, if anything is given in double inverted comma and then they say comment, what you should do, like a cricket commentator, you have to talk about the positive. Positive means you support what is given in the double inverted comma. Then the negative. Negative means what? You will oppose it. So what is the first half of the answer? First half of the answer will be, yes, transparency and accountability is not just about controlling corruption, but there should be trust among the stakeholders by following rule of law and participatory governance. Very, very true. That is how you become transparent and you keep accountability. So how do you ensure it? Now for this you should give concrete examples. Concrete examples have to be given for this. Creating trust of stakeholders. How will you give example of that? How will you ensure this trust? In policy process, rule of law, participatory governance. So, policy process, rule of law, participatory governance. Question hour, adjournment motion, starred question, unstarred question, all of that. Supplementary question. These are methods or processes through which you can ensure transparency. Correct? Questioning the government. You start from there. Start from the parliament part. Because see, specifically they did not ask about parliament. Specifically they have not asked about legislative assembly. They have not asked anything. They said stakeholders should feel trust and faith through the rule of law, through participatory governance. Correct? Let us start from there. In parliament, how do you ensure it? This, you need to have debates and discussions, CAG report, referring the bill to committees. This is the way you ensure it, because this is the process. But what is the reality? Debates and discussions are less. Bills are passed very, very quickly. Mostly what they are using, guillotine. No dedicated question hour also properly. Correct? That is the reality. Number 2, Parliament is functioning very badly. Legislative assemblies are functioning even more pathetically. Because in legislative parliament, at least we have the data. Legislative assembly, the biggest problem is we don't have any concrete data to analyze their performance. Number 3, local bodies, panchayats plus municipalities. What is the situation there? Elections not held on time. Own source of revenue they don't have. So when elections are not held on time, then where is the participation? When money is not there with them, where is the financial independence? So yes, it is not corruption. It is rule of law, participatory governance that we need. First half of the answer. Second half is what? Second half we have to say no, corruption also needs to be dealt with. Because what is the reality in India? Take any scam, NEET scam, or leakage of question paper, copying in the exam, or backdoor entry, giving position or job to people, money, etc. All this is what? Why are people indulging in corruption? Because corruption laws are weak. You give the example of China. You indulge in corruption there, it is capital punishment no matter who you are connected with. Whereas in India, there is no such provision. There is no such provision at all. Maximum what can happen is you will be suspended. But you can be, once the suspension time period etc. is over, you can be reinstated back into service. N number of times. That is the reality. So, like taking prior permission, less severity of punishment, attachment of assets, corrupt assets. This is only done by ED currently, only if under PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Other than that, normal police etc. don't have the, or even the, for that matter, vigilance department don't have that powers to attach the assets. That they don't have. That is only there with ED. So what do we need? We need transparency. We need accountability. Along with that, what do we need? We need our corruption laws to become more strict and effective. Otherwise, because currently whatever system we have, it is not a deterrent. It just prescribes a minimum jail time. This is what you will write. Got it, people? Can the constitutional mandate of rights-based welfare be effectively realized in the context of non-integrated governance and minimal public investment? Rights-based welfare. It's my right to get this. It's my right. I have a right to receive this. I have a right to receive that. That is a basic idea here. So unemployed, okay, give them money. Oh, they are women, okay, give them money. Oh, they are young, give them money. So, can it be effectively realized in the context of non-integrated governance? What is non-integrated governance? There is no connection. So under Ladli Bahana Yojana or that Yojana, this Yojana, I am giving money to a section of the population. How will it contribute to the whole of the country? Is there any connection? That is basically, I am giving freebie to somebody. Somebody is traveling in bus for free in Karnataka or in Tamil Nadu. How is it going to create an impact? How is it going to help for the whole country? Absolutely not. You can target a certain group and you give something to them. It is the only that group who is getting the benefit of it. Correct? No way it will contribute to the GDP. No way it will contribute to any other aspect of the country. Minimal public investment. So what happens here? Last week only in the current affairs class, I connected this. That is the freebies what is being given or the unconditional cash transfers that is given. We saw. So 120% of the health budget. Some 70% of education budget. This is for Chhattisgarh. That is also for Chhattisgarh. This is where we are standing. Health you have kept a minimal amount, but more you are giving for what? You are giving for freebie. 120%. More than double of what you have allocated for health. So very recently again, what is it? A judge basically observed. That is for Maharashtra for some Kumbh Mela, something, Nashik Kumbh or something. They have allocated some money. So he said even some percentage of it would have been enough to actually save some more than 130 Marathi medium government schools. So Nashik Kumbh, when you say it is only for a selected population, you are giving it, whatever money you are putting there. For their rights, it is their right to religion or whatever, to protect them, to ensure their safety, their comfort, you are putting money. Fine. But what is the other side of the story? Minimal public investment. In other words, what is happening is because of the so-called unconditional cash transfer, you have been neglecting health, you have been neglecting education. And that has literally transformed into what? More than 90, I think 93,000. Okay, I'm not sure of the number, so let's keep it at 90. More than 90,000 schools getting shut down, government-run schools. Health hospitals, etc. running with lesser medicines, lesser necessities for sustaining life or for conducting operations. Number 3, because all the money is now going into this freebie, what is happening? Infrastructure is going down. Deficit is increasing, which is contributing to increase in fiscal deficit. So what is finally needed? Even when we give transfer, freebies, etc., it should go to the deserving sections of the population. So that the money what is saved should go into health, education, infrastructure. End of the answer. Getting the point here. It is an examine-based question. That is, to what extent do you think this is right, or to what extent do you think this is wrong? There is only one right for this. There is nothing wrong about it because what they said is very, very true. Rights based only for some people. When you give everything, what happens is the other areas suffer. States don't have that much of money with them, but they're only doing it with only what concern their, yeah, rights. Some people will get that money, it will lead to their development. Plus, on top of it, it is good for vote bank politics. Got the point here? I didn't understand. The rights based welfare means, as a matter of right, at least for a few sections of the population, you are helping them out. Can be through any way. Subsidies are there, which is there already, and these days it is freebies. Subsidies plus freebies. You are targeting a certain group, directly putting money into them, or you're giving them things at a subsidized rate. This is the intro for it. The point which is being asked here is, can it be realized in the context of non-integrated governance? Now, why it is non-integrated? If you are giving free electricity to the farmers, will it really contribute to the country? We can say no, it will increase the production, etc. But at the other side, if you see, free electricity you are giving, groundwater table is getting ruined. People are only focusing on a few crops, rice, wheat, sugarcane largely. Getting the point here. Minimal public investment. Public investment means investment in anything that is necessary for the public. So if you overall see in our country, what is happening is, subsidies and freebies are taking away the lion's share of the fund. All right. Lion's share of the fund is actually going into what? Subsidies and freebies. Some estimates suggest that this is more than 10 lakh crore per year. What is happening because of this? Health takes a hit, education takes a hit, infrastructure takes a hit. If your infrastructure improves, better connectivity, etc. is there, automatically what happens? People will invest in education. And you improve education and health, etc. All the three will contribute to increase in GDP as well as overall well-being of the society. But for most states, as well as in India, we know as a whole, if you take, be it at state level, be it at the national level, expenditure on health and education is very, very less. Why? Because this directly translates into votes. These things it doesn't do. Clear? Please confirm what? This is the point. See, whoever is out there throwing in that lot of hate, whatever, it is again your fundamental right to expression. Utilize your time for something else. You are an ex-aspirant, you are whatever. Don't just remain as an ex. Do something qualitative in your life. Hating me will not, or even putting up filth in the comment section is not going to affect me by an iota. So you want to waste your time? Go ahead. As I've always said, comments ultimately नीचे, मेरे वीडियोस के नीचे. Anand Pattar, computer science graduate. If you can afford, please take up a batch. That is what I would recommend you. All right. Now coming to international relations. IPMDA, Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness, bridges the gap between India's Sagar and Quad's collective Indo-Pacific strategy. Make a critical assessment of the statement focusing on IPMDA. So Sagar now it is appearing, I think the second time. In prelims also it has appeared, in mains also it has appeared. So bottom line is very, very simple. International relations are becoming very, very important. You will be able to answer this only if you know what is IPMDA, what is Sagar, then what is Quad, and focus on IPMDA. Be it Sagar or be it Quad, these are not very recent topics. These are like there since the last 2-3 years minimum. IPMDA, if you take, that is the latest. So pretty much sitter only. Technology translation, institutional continuity, geographic alignment, Southeast Asian Pacific, non-traditional security focus. What is the core mechanism of it? Anti-China optics. Anti-China optics means, see, basically all this leverage is being done to actually isolate China because China is the only bully in the region. That is the reason. One thing, like definitely I have to add up here. Asia Pacific map. Yeah, I know. That is a bit hardcore only, no doubt about it. And pretty recent also. Asia Pacific map you will have to draw. So I know it is not actually possible to literally remember, okay, Sagar, what are the provisions? This, what is the provision? It is not easy. I agree with that 100%. So how do you prepare for it now? So those of you who are going to do it, the first and foremost thing is any such grouping. Now Sagar has come, Quad has come, IPMD has come. Very good chance that it will come again. First thing is Asia map Pacific as well as or India along with its Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, this side as well as this side. This much at least you should be able to draw. Where is Sagar? The Sagar is largely this part. Then where is Quad? Quad means you have Australia also. Correct. At least there's 3-4 countries involved in Quad. That you will have to mark it out. Then what is Quad's purpose? What is IPMDA's purpose? Map you draw. Through that you write, okay, these 4-5 points. Main pointers. That is the way you will do it. So simple. Associated with C, which and all alliances are there? That you will draw out. I am not good at diagrams. Lakshmi, I am discussing GS2 here. Let me discuss and finish it that. All the papers will be discussed here. Yes, it is hard. I'm not denying it. I'm not good at diagram. You will have to be good at diagram, Himanshu. No other go. Understand one thing. You will be competing with people who have geography as an optional or history as an optional. So geography optional students are generally like for the map. Drawing a map is literally a walk in the park. So you have to draw maps and then write the points there. That is the way to prepare. Don't go for the traditional way of, okay, Sagar, tak, all the points you will write. That anybody will write. Instead, you will do this. BRICS acts as a powerful counterweight in global governance, actively amplifying the voice and influence of the global south. Explain the role of BRICS in protecting itself as an alternative to other groupings. It's an explain question. So an explain question means what? You just have to say that this is true. It is an alternative for the global south. Why it is an alternative? Because obviously emerging economies, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Now China is developed. But China calls itself as still developing. So what is BRICS? How it is projecting itself as an alternative. How it is doing so? Well, that is the reality. China is trading with Russia. India is trading with Russia. Whatever sanctions, etc. are there, that is not bothering any of them. China is the largest exporter. India is projected to be the largest market. There was a time period where BRICS even thought of an alternative currency instead of dollar, de-dollarization, which literally rattled USA, where USA threatened with further sanctions if they proceed with de-dollarization. All right. So again, yeah, and then obviously, what is NDB? What is contingent reserves? Now, this, if you really ask me, this is actually like, this question is actually too old. Why too old? BRICS is not a new thing. It's a very old thing. So once again, what does it stress? Only I think 1 or 2 times BRICS got mentioned in the newspaper last year. When this de-dollarization and BRICS were thinking about an alternate currency, that time they got mentioned. Current affair wise, not a major role it did not play. But repeated topic in UPSC asked it again. And that too for 10 marks. So you need not go write too much of content also. Just 2-page content is enough. De-dollarization, strategic enlargement, who and all have joined it. India's global diaspora acts as a living bridge, as a critical economic factor and knowledge network in transforming cultural heritage into geopolitical influence and strategic leverage worldwide. Critically examine this statement. This, if you really see, most of the free trade agreements, that is the background for this. So with UK, if you have signed an FTA, with Europe, if you have signed an FTA, with UAE, USA, etc., there are potential FTAs which have been signed or under signing. All this, what is one of the major leverage background there? It is the Indian population there. Number one, because they will buy Indian products, they will work there, they are providing the muscle and all of that. Now, very recently, I saw with Japan also, now Japan has decided to amend their constitution, because Japan, they manufacture generally everything inside their country only. Now, Japan is ready to actually give technology to India, where factories will be set up in India. India will provide the muscle for it, because we have population here. Japan is struggling with a population crisis. Getting the picture here. So Indian diaspora who is sitting abroad, they literally influence policies between India as well as the neighboring countries. So if you really see Indian products, Indian music, Indian culture, be it yoga, be it dance, all these are now accepted. So for engineers, etc., if the visas are not being issued on time, okay. But for music teachers, yoga teachers, dance teachers, it is issued easily. Challenge will be what? To literally know Indian diaspora, what is the count outside. Their economic contribution, that is all these values, remittances. It's I think more than $100 billion now. Roughly how much percentage of the population are staying abroad and how they influence the policies. Oh, okay. 1 second. Living bridge, critical economic factor, knowledge network, transforming cultural and geopolitical influence, strategic leverage. Critically examine the statement. That is there. So, first half, like I told you, you can say how, yoga, etc., has reached the near and far corners, Indian food, then clothing. And number 4, India's medical facilities. Tech transfer, all this we have been able to do, or the FTAs, whatever we have signed, free trade agreements. A large reason is the Indian diaspora abroad. Correct? That much we will mention. At the same time, what is the other side of the story? This Indian diaspora, whoever is going abroad, why are they going abroad? Lack of opportunities in India. That is one of the major reasons. Number 2, startups are leaving India. They are exiting out because of the taxation policies here. Even if you have to shut down a startup here, it is very difficult to get the no objection certificate. Number 3, people are actually going there for better quality education. Not because they want to improve the diaspora. That is how this diaspora increased. Quality education, what we see, especially with regard to research, etc., we don't have it there. Because we saw research and development, we only spend around 0.8% of the GDP. Western countries, etc., they have very good facilities, amazing libraries, amazing research, etc., funded by private companies, etc. there. That is one more reason why people are living here and going there. Getting the point here. We can call it as a living bridge, but that living bridge, if you really see, it is actually tilted more towards outside than India. There is a connect. Nobody is denying it. There is a connect. But that connect itself, if you see, it's not like a bridge how it is supposed to be connected. It is more like a seesaw. With more and more people going abroad, not wanting to come back. Got the point? That is the other side of the story, what you will write. Clear? Correct? Correct, Kashif. Moving on. Again, a very old topic. China's Belt and Road Initiative has transformed South Asia from a regional space into a theatre of great power competition. Analyze the strategic implications of the BRI for India's security and regional influence in South Asia. So this is basically like the competition that is there between India and China for space with respect to South Asia. So ASEAN will come here. So you start with all the neighboring countries. First the ASEAN grouping. We have signed an FTA, agreed. We are trying to support the ASEAN nations. Then with respect to Sri Lanka, what is the current statistics? Then Afghan, Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan. In this, we know outstanding issues are pending with Nepal, Bangladesh and Pakistan. The China-Pakistan economic corridor is actually passing through POK. Bangladesh, ever since the Sheikh Hasina government was toppled, they are getting more and more closer to China, where the interim government even told China that once you enter through Siliguri corridor, you can capture the entire northeast. Nepal, outstanding boundary issues which have started emerging only in the recent past, which again is considered to be nudging from China. Got the point there? Then with Sri Lanka, the construction of the Hambantota port and all that. Afghanistan, what is the thing? Afghanistan, largely Chinese presence is neutral because China does not have nothing much to gain from there. Bhutan, presence is there. Presence is there in terms of highways, this, that, etc. But still, Bhutan is maintaining its sovereignty. That's it. But then where, even though competition, etc., we may say, what is China's GDP? What is India's GDP? What is China's defense budget? What is India's defense budget? What is Chinese R&D? What is Indian R&D? What are Chinese exports? What are Indian exports? And we are having a huge trade deficit with China. If you actually see, China's economic power and military power are much ahead of India. But what India is largely relying on is the soft power. Giving grants, helping out technologically, helping out or giving electricity. Like this through cultural exchanges, etc. India is trying to develop a goodwill of a country that can be trusted. China instead is using hard economic muscle by giving loans and tightening the noose around the neck of the countries by charging high interest. That is where India is winning the psychological battle. That when given a choice between India and China, even though India may only invest less, give less money, you can trust India, but you cannot trust the Chinese. Yeah, even Myanmar also you can throw in. All right. Just give me a minute. Any other questions, people? Any other queries? Uh, you do whatever you want, man. Currently, I'm in my final year. Then, sir, I thought to give my attempt in 29. So, please give a simple and brief preparation strategy suggestion. Attempt in 29, currently in final year. You can start with NCRTs, like I told you. Start with NCRTs, then go for the standard books. Or if you can afford it, please go for Praram 2029 batch. Very good. Both are a Google account. Very good, very good. Very creatively, you are utilizing your time. I can already see you are a very high functioning individual. All right, then. So, the social justice part will be taken by Harpreet, sir. All right, let's call it a day, people.
Hi everybody, I guess you're all doing well and hopefully your studies are also going well, and really thankful to Nikhil sir for a wonderful explanation with respect to the parts of polity, international relations and governance. Now let us move to the next part, which is basically dealing with social justice. We had done in the morning time also the topic of society, and we were able to structure certain answers and how the questions need to be dealt with. And I personally believe this time when we see the society and social justice part, the topics were generic in nature, but along with that, you need to know certain aspects of what the policies and schemes are so that you can write down in their answers. Like, for example, the topic of, for that matter, the topic of tribals have come. Every single year, right? Every single year, you realize that topic of tribals is there in the paper, right? So we need to study the topic well, which I do in my classes also. And particularly those with the anthropology optional would find it very easy. But nonetheless, we'll begin with the study and let's analyze how we need to structure the answers. Come on. Okay. If you see social justice, this time 3 questions have been asked. So society, if you realize, large number of questions from society comes in GS paper 1. In GS paper 2, the range basically varies. Sometimes it is 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6, sometimes 3. So more or less, this is the range in which the social justice questions are asked in GS2. Now, let us begin with the second part, that is GS2 social justice. Now, let us first read the question and understand what it basically means and what it basically stands for. If I read this question, let's see what it's saying. Does the tribal development policy reflect the aspirations for the socially grounded and equity-based governance? Justify your answer. Now, if I am answering this question, right, socially grounded and equity-based, if I want to answer this, let us see first of all, what are the things that I need to know? What are the things that I need to know? Clear? Tribals over here are again an integral part of the India's community and in society, right? Clear? Okay, somebody is saying previous batch of anthropology. Wonderful, bache. Hi, Mayank. I guess I remember you well. So, you can basically remember this when we discuss this question. When I say tribal policy, right? Tribal policy over here is not specifically talking about the national draft policy with respect to the tribals. It is also basically talking about what are the strategy, what are the laws which that are dealt or related to tribals that are present. Now, if I normally see, let us see, we're talking about certain policies like national, 2 minutes, let us see what are the body, national tribal policy also we have, right? We have also have a lot of laws which are related to the tribals. Let us like the Forest Right Act 2006. We have the SC/ST Act 1989. We also have the PISA Act. We have the Compensatory Afforestation Act, which has an element of related to the tribals. So we have a lot of laws which are present with respect to the tribals. Broadly, if you see, when I talk about certain policies, why I'm teaching you this aspect is because questions can be asked in the next year also. There are certain policies or approaches where how tribals are studied. Approaches are, one approach can be isolation. One approach is assimilation. One approach is integration. Isolation means that tribals should be left alone. You do not intervene in their lives at all. Assimilation means that they should be assimilated in the mainstream society, so there should be no difference between tribals and mainstream. On the other hand, we realize that there is a third approach, right? Clear? There is a third approach which basically talks about integration, where you have to balance the assimilation as well as the integration. Certain things. Now, along with that, there can be various aspects related to the constitution. In constitution, if you realize, you have the 5th schedule and the 6th schedule. 5th and 6th schedule. Yes. Similarly, a lot of provisions in the constitution are also present with respect to, okay, with respect to these particular things. Now, I know these are what reflecting what the approach towards the tribal should be. Clear? 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 So when we are discussing over here, when we are discussing these things, national tribal policy, laws, approaches, constitutional articles, you can mention certain articles also. This is the broad aspect. One more thing which you should understand, why I'm not structuring the answer, I'll structure it. This is the broad context. One more thing is tribal panchil. When I'm saying about the policies and what the approach to study policies should be, clear? Which is my request to certain candidate, Mr. Vijay, whatever your real name is. Over here, if you do not want to study, please do not study. We are discussing a particular session over here. If you are a candidate who is serious enough, you can use your time to either study over here or study meanwhile some other thing. If you put these, I know these are fake profiles that keep on coming. Okay? My request would be to please let the other people study. Right? By putting these comments for any particular teacher, you are disturbing the other people also. Right? So my request would be stop wasting your time if you want to do something in life and do something better so that you can at least do something, right? So better would be focus on that rather than disturbing the flow of the class where other candidates are working towards understanding and becoming something in life. Right? We know all these spamming profiles and all that come. We would request you to stop this. Other people are studying here. If you do not want to study, possibly the amount of energy you are wasting on putting these comments, if you had been a serious candidate, you would have at least spent your time doing something better. So my request would be, for God's sake, whichever teacher you are mentioning or Nikhil is one of the best faculties that you can come across. If you have some problem, right? So please, there are other platforms to deal with, not this. This is a session where somebody is learning, right? Okay. Now, these are those things which are basically dealt in this particular word, tribal development policy. This single word is mentioned over here. Okay? All these things which are present over here, tribal panchil policy is basically given by Jawaharlal Nehru, which talks about the fact that we need to maintain a balance, right? We need to maintain a balance, right? Between the aspect of what is going on. We need to maintain a balance between the aspect of the tribal integration as well as tribal assimilation. And let the tribals develop at their own owners. If they need development, they will be developed. Otherwise, no, we will not interfere. That is what tribal panchil talks about. Now, similarly, if you see national tribal policy, it also gives you a broad guidelines of how to approach the tribals, what things should be done, their developmental aspects and all. These laws, Forest Rights Act, why I'm explaining this? Because in the coming years, you will be coming across these questions. When I talk about the Forest Right Act, this act again becomes important because it gives 4 rights to the tribals, scheduled tribes in particular. First is individual habitat rights. Second over here is community habitat rights. Third over here is community resource rights. Now, these types of rights which you very often hear are very, very important with respect to the Forest Rights Act which you study. Yes, so please remember when we talk about these rights are very, very important. Now, when I talk about SC/ST Act, it basically helps to protect the integrity, it helps to protect the status, it protects them from any sort of discrimination. PISA, Panchayat extension to the schedule areas, again it extends the Panchayati Raj system to the 5th schedule areas. Compensatory afforestation, again over here is present if there's certain land which is tribal or forested land which is basically converted or used for some other purpose, you need to compensate for it through putting or growing forest or trees in some other region. And over here the approaches which I've discussed. So now the concept will come when you know all these policies and all these framework with respect to the tribal. Let us discuss the question here. The question over here says, does India tribal development policy reflect the aspirations of socially grounded and equity-based governance? Now see, first of all, when you are going to give the introduction, define about the tribals that are present in India, right? What is a tribe? You can define a tribe. If you want to define, you can define it. When you define, you can define. Now comes the body if you want. Or somebody wants to approach in a manner that what question is demanding, you can use that also. But on the other hand, you can define a tribe if you want. When you come here, when you come to the body, right? When you come to the body, you will come to this thing that what is the tribal development policy that is being discussed over here? First part would be tribal development policy, what it is all. So over here, you'll be briefly mentioning the aspects over here. How? This policy is not an outcome of one simple policy, but outcome of how governance of the tribals is going on. You can mention over here the aspect of policy framework. You have certain laws that are there. Then constitution. And obviously the schemes for the tribals. These are the broad aspects which reflect the tribal development policy. Clear? Clear? Now, what I'm trying to say is that these four things, schemes, policy framework, laws, and constitutional articles, that is 5th and 6th schedule, this is the broad policy framework which you briefly need to write about these things over here. Now, once that is written, then the second part of the constitution comes, because if you do not write them, it will be incomplete. So if you see, because it is 10 marker, then also you can briefly write them. Does it reflect the aspirations of socially grounded and equity-based governments? That means socially grounded, equity-based. Now you will write, okay, how it is basically socially grounded and equity-based. You have to write the points related to that, right? For example, the Forest Right Act gives them so many rights. The SC/ST Act protects them from the problems or discrimination. All you can write those points over here with respect to what? Yes, it is helping them to be giving them an equity-based standard, or let us say socially grounded. Once you have done this, then you will mention it is not necessary. They're still facing challenges. What are they? Still facing challenges. Challenges to what? Equity as well as societal aspects. So challenges you will mention over here. Once you have done this, at the last you will write the conclusion, or let us say recommendations also. What can be done? Recommendations, and finally conclusion. Now see, this is a structure. Why I'm mentioning this structure? Definition. What is tribal development policy? All these things. How, yes, it is socially, or let us say positive aspect of these, is it is socially grounded, equity based, write those points. Then challenges, no, there are certain challenges. Then recommendations. See, generally the general studies students do not study so much, but I do it in my general studies classes also. You can mention about KAKA committee or various committees or Ministry of Tribal Affairs reports which have mentioned that will give you +1 marks in that. So let us see over here if this is a broad framework. So what you can talk about, either you can begin with this type of definition where it is talking about right-based participatory governance, or you can define with the tribal also. It is, well, there is no issue in that. Clear? Okay. Clear? Okay. Clear? Now let's see here. In the body, see, over here it is not mentioning about what are the policies. So you can mention them as I've drawn over here. Then, yes, it is socially grounded. How will mention right-based approach, recognition of the rights under Forest Rights Act. For that matter, participatory government through PISA. You can give the examples of Niyamgiri Hills over there, where the Dongriya Khonds tribes actually worshipped the Niyamgiri hill in Odisha. And what happened was there that government wanted to do bauxite mining. So the Supreme Court intervened when the NGO filed a PIL, and the Supreme Court restricted the mining activities. So in a way that the Gram Sabha, that means the Dongriya Khonds, basically virtually won their rights. Then targeted development, tribal sub-plans are there. Dharti Aba Janjatiya Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan can be used. Cultural protection under National Education Policy 2020. Inclusive representation, Article 330 research are reserved. So these can be the positive aspects which you can mention. Then the next part is the challenges. Challenges means, let us say, weak implementation of FRA. If you see, there are government reports which says that at present 50% of the claims are under trial or pending in case of the Forest Right Act. So again, there is weak implementation. Displacement risk over here. Even today, we know that a lot of tribes are being displaced. If you see, in the previously also you had seen that Dongriya Khonds having an issue, or for that matter, if you see Sardar Sarovar Dome, the regions of Bhils were displaced. If you see the tribes of Irula in Kerala have been displaced because of various developmental projects. So when we see or talk about them, right? When we see or talk about them, okay. Now, so what we see over here is that there is displacement and all is basically present over here. That is again an issue. Service deficits, administration exclusion, development mismatch. So you can mention these examples as the challenges that are present. Once you have mentioned that, then there is another aspect with respect to way forward. Way forward, I would mention that you can use one committee, Kaka committee. Kaka committee has recommended certain things like, for example, first of all, better implementation of the policies, better implementation, tribal research centers to be expanded. Similarly, other recommendations which are mentioned over here, localized planning, outcome monitoring and all have been basically mentioned in the Kaka committee. So they have not mentioned the committee over here. I am mentioning it over here because just to make it more technical. Then obviously you can conclude it that tribals are again an integral part of the part of India, and that is why please remember that this question is very scoring. Okay? This question is very scoring, and I would request you that this question you can get really very good marks out of 10, right? Chalo, let's move to the next. Next question. These questions, similar questions have been asked in the various tests also, challenges to the tribal communities and all. So if you would have attended the test or doing the daily test, you would have basically benefited out of this. Clear? Okay, now let's come to this next question. Malnutrition in India is not merely a public health concern. It is also a social equity. It is also a challenge to social equity, human development, and governance, effective governance. Now see, whenever we talk about the aspect of malnourishment, first thing you should be very careful about the fact is, clear? First thing that you should be very careful about the fact is that topics like malnourishment or nutritional aspects, or for that matter poverty, over here you need to know the statistics. I'm putting some statistics over here on the board so that it will be helpful for you when you are giving or attempting the paper next year also, because every single year one or the other question on malnourishment comes. So just that, like as I have done over here, giving you certain extra data and all. Similarly, I'm giving you certain details over here just as a input over here. Let's please note it down also. Then we will, after this, we will structure it. Malnourishment statistics. So if we talk about for 2 minutes, child malnourishment. First is stunting. Stunting basically refers to low height for a particular age. Second is wasting. Wasting refers to low weight for the particular height that you have. Third over here is underweight, which is basically low weight for a particular age. And there is one more thing many of you do not know. Malnourishment also covers overweight, being overweight. According to the World Health Organizations, malnourishment not only covers these issues, but it also covers overweight. Clear? Chali. So, another is overweight. So, if I take the statistics over here, stunting over here is experienced in India by 35.5%, 19%, 32%, and 3%. So these are certain statistics. It is not necessary that you use all of them, but you should have an idea about these malnourishment with respect to child. And also you can quote any one of them. Like for example, stunting with respect to in India from 0 to 5 years is this much, right? 0 to 5 years. A quotation can be useful while you are answering. Similarly, let us take some statistics for the women also. If I take women, undernourished, (15 to 49 years), anemia in women, 15 to 49. Now, if you see over here, 18.7% and 57% women are basically suffering from what? Clear? Suffering from the anemia among women. Now, many will say, sir, we do not want to remember these stats. Obviously, you do not have to remember all of them. You can remember one or two, but one thing that you should remember is the hunger index also, because that can be used in your starting. So let's see one more stat which I'm giving you here. Global hunger index India ranks what? A very poor rank, 102nd out of 123 countries. Now, if you remember this last statistics also, which can be used even in your introduction if you want. Clear? Now see, okay. So, global hunger index is 102nd out of the 123 countries. Now, these are certain statistics which as a person who's preparing for civil services should know. Why? Because you'll be using them in your essays, in your various exams, social justice, economic aspects also, or for that matter, question on women comes, question on children come, or a hunger index comes. So these things will be useful there. See, these add value to your answers. Clear? Clear? Okay? Clear? What happened? Okay, chali. Coming back. See over here the question now. Where is the question? Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Yeah. Now the question is, malnourishment in India is not merely a public health concern. It is a challenge. Now see, if I want to structure this answer, first of all, see the structuring of the answer. If I want to write the introduction, you can mention about malnourishment, or you can begin with the statistics also, right? You can define malnourishment, or you can begin with the statistics with respect to the global hunger index and all. That will also be very useful for you. In both the cases, see, there is no one way of introducing your answer. Sometimes students mention that define malnourishment, and they can mention a statistics, or they can mention that global hunger index India ranks 101 or 123 countries, which basically depicts the malnourishment situation in the country or the issue. So that is also a way which you can basically, okay. Okay, I feel so nice that all my dear old students have come here and there. So good, bache, we are always there for you. Don't worry. So what you can do is, you can basically mention over here a stat. So that is, I'm telling you, introduction does not needs to be in one manner. Stat over here, you can use the global 100 index one way. How will you do that? According to the Global 100 Index, India ranks 102nd among the 133 countries. So that shows the grave concern with respect to the malnourishment situation that India is experiencing. Okay? This can be one way. Or somebody can even other ways define malnourishment. That is another way of doing it. Third way over here is that you can use some stats, one or two stats out of this, then also you can do it. Another stats from this particular part. So introduction can be based on that. Now, when you have done with the introduction, this question has various parts. You have to address every part. If you address every part, your marks are divided according to the various parts. Now let us see. When you come to the body, if you read the question here, the question talks about malnourishment in India is not merely a public health concern. So that means malnourishment firstly is a public health concern, plus it is a challenge to social equity, plus it is a challenge to human development, as well as a challenge to welfare governance. You have to divide the answer into these parts. Not necessary that you need to write multiple points under each, but first over here, malnourishment as a public health concern. See here. This is the first part where you have to explain. Second point will be, if it is a public health concern, not only that means you have to explain this, then challenge to social equity. So next point will be as malnourishment, I'm just using a short for malnourishment as a challenge to social equity. Again, certain points here. Third, malnourishment as a challenge to human development. Malnourishment as a challenge to effective governance or welfare governance. Now please understand one thing. Once you have done this, because these are those aspects which the question is demanding. You write 2 lines, a few points can be written over here. The problem over here is, clear? The problem over here is, where can you get the details? What I will do is, bache, I will put that details in my Telegram account, or we will attach it to the description link of the video when it gets over. So in the description, you can later on download it. Don't worry, I'll give it to you. Or else my Telegram account is there. I'll put it there also. You can look it from there also, not an issue. Chalo, coming back here. Once you have done this, remember one thing. You are preparing for an exam which is talking about administrator. Okay? Administration. You're not doing for some academic purpose. So another thing can be few lines you can mention about what the government has done. For example, the Poshan Abhiyan, the iron folic tablet scheme that is going on. So in 2-3 lines you can do is what government has done. What government has done. You can mention about with respect to the schemes or the schemes that are present has done. And the next is what can be done to resolve this issue. And finally, the conclusion. This is what this question as a structure demands. Clear? Now, because it is a 10 marker, you do not have to write stories or various points here. Few one point will work. 1 or 2 points. And then these things. This is a structure of an answer if you really want to score well. Now, coming to this question. Now, you know, malnourishment again. Over here, you can begin with the definition. That is one way. Or as I told you with the statistics, it is one or the other way. Multidimensional deprivation and all. Then see malnourishment as a public health challenge. How? maternal and child healthcare issues, disease burden, let us say hidden hunger. Hidden hunger basically refers to what? The hidden one, because normally we focus on carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Those are the macronutrients. We very often neglect the aspect of vitamins and minerals. Clear? Vitamins and minerals. That is what is a hidden hunger also. So that is why we can mention that. Then comes to challenge to social equity, aspect related to poverty. If you see, malnourishment often leads to what? You're not able to work. There is poverty also. There is loss of job also. Possibly you're not able to perform. So that is why general inequality, regional disparities are present. Tribals are suffering more. Supposingly, if you see, malnourishment is very high among the tribal population, among the Bastar region. Yes, Birho tribe, PVTGs, the Khons tribe, these are even suffering more in comparison to the other people. So you can mention that. Now, impact with respect to human development, it basically hinders what? If you are not receiving proper nutrition, you realize that it helps, or let us say disturbs the growth and development of the human body. So, cognitive development, economic productivity, demographic dividend, you can add certain points over here. Challenge to welfare, last mile delivery, exclusion errors can be there, convergence gaps and issues can be there, and behavioral changes. If very often when people do not get proper nutrition, it can lead to indulging in criminal activities, other problems can be there. So you have to divide into 4 headings, and one you have written 3 points here, you can write 2 points also, more than sufficient. Once you have done this, then possibly you can mention one more thing as I've added here, what the government has done. You can mention about Poshan Abhiyan, the scheme for iron folic capsules. We can also have tribal sub-plans where tribals, for the welfare of the tribals with respect to nutrition is being focused. So 1 or 2, 3 schemes mentioned, more than sufficient. Now what you need to do is suggestions over here. Way forward in a way that what the government should do. We need to use convergence schemes, somewhat like the aspirational district program that was there. We can use technology over here. Kaka committee recommendation reports basically mentions that we need to have an active grievance redressal mechanism. Once you mention these, then you concluded. I'm telling you, you'll get very good marks because you're using committees, you're using statistics along with the answer in a flow. So, in the conclusion, you can definitely mention about malnutrition is both a cause and a consequence of inequality. And then obviously, we need an integrated approach towards social equity, human investment, behavioral aspects and welfare approach. So this is something which I've told you. If you follow my structure, which I've mentioned here, this is even more detailed and this is what will fetch you in more marks. Clear? So while writing in the answer value addition, writing value addition sometimes creating concern. So should I avoid adding in 10 marks? Beta, Mayank, remember one thing, what happens is when you are writing your answers now, like for example, if you are able to add it. If you face issue, leave it, not an issue. See, remember, Mayank and everybody over, you will realize one thing very clearly. All these themes are repeated every single year. Malnourishment, poverty, demography. So you need to have certain statistics for every topic. Rest of the things are again using the common sense as we answer. Schemes and all we obviously do. So these were very simple questions. Tribals, Mayank, you would have done in anthropology. Even in general studies I teach. This again is a normal thing which we have studied also in general studies also. So you could have easily answered this. Plus, little bit updation when you're reading the current affairs. These statistics, latest reports and all are there. So you can add to them. Clear? Next. Okay. Now, should education be treated primarily as a welfare obligation of a state or a strategic investment for building globally competitive knowledge-driven nation? Critically evaluate. Please remember one thing. Whenever a question is asked in such a manner, right? Just give me a minute. Whenever a question is asked in such a manner, you need to answer from both the aspects. Now, see, if I say education should be treated primarily as a welfare obligation, what do you mean by welfare obligation? Where government takes it as a basic criteria where it is its duty to provide it to the people because it is an element of the welfare or its obligation which has to fulfill. So that is being done. Yes, that needs to continue or not. That is being asked first. Or when they say or, that means whether they should do this or a strategic investment for building competitiveness. So that means it is like an investment where private companies also collaborating, foreign universities also coming. So should we do that? Now, both of them are being asked. But the question is or, that means whether this or that. You will write about both of them. At the last, you need to understand both of these things are important. So you will see we need convergence on both of things. We need it to be treated as a welfare aspect also. Why? Because a lot of poor people in India, tribals, vulnerable sections, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs also were suffering. Large number of people are suffering. So they need help or aid from the government with that respect. So it should be a welfare obligation, yes. Along with that strategic investment, yes, we need to compete with the global universities also. We need private investment also. We need foreign universities to come here and tie up with our universities also. That is also required. So you write both of these elements, but last, we need a convergence of both. That will be the most important aspect here. Clear? If you just give me a minute. If you see here, let us take just a minute. Let us add a. Firstly, when we are talking about these two aspects, should education be treated as a primary obligation? Now, if you see, you can, if you want, when you write the introduction, you can link education to Article 21A also, just to add a constitutional touch to it, right? You know that right to education under Right to Education 2009 basically made it the primary education compulsory and free. So you can add little things over here in the introduction if you want. In the body, when you come, you need to see education as a welfare obligation. Why so? Why should we have it? You need to write on these. Second point would be education as a strategic investment. Yes, education, strategic investment. Once you have written this, we need to have the third part where you are basically talking about the fact that both of them are important. That is what critically evaluate means, that both of them have their own merits. Keeping them alone will have its own demerits also. So what is that middle path that you need to follow? This is the evaluation part. Middle path is both of them are what? Important. Our policy for education should be such that we combine both of them. And then you can conclude. Clear? Let's see. Why I'm giving you the structure here, there is a reason behind it, right? Okay, somebody is saying, Mayank is saying, sir, no sir, stats is never a problem, but adding something extra data is resulting in reduction of marks. Example, mentioning factors affecting the scenario. See, it depends upon, firstly, if the question is of 10 marks, then the dimensions relatively should be less. When it is of 15 marks, the dimensions will increase. That is one thing. You should understand that, beta. Second thing is that what the question is asking, if the element which is not asked directly should not be explained in great details. What is being asked, that has to be the major core part. If you add something else, that should be explained briefly. Those things will develop with time when you practice more. More you get them, more the answers you get checked, more the people are giving you recommendations. Yes, you can send me the answers you have been sending. Send me more answers. I will evaluate them. I'll work on them. Right? Okay. Chaliye. Now, for example, like education is a constitutional responsibility of the state and all, which we have already, Article 21A, you can mention them. When you come here, education as a strategic investment for globally competitive, I think, just a minute. Sorry, yeah. Education as a welfare obligation. Now, these are points which you can use. Like, for example, social justice. Article 21A, you can mention. Inclusive development, scholarship, as well as Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Democratic citizenship, human capability, increasing that. So, you can mention those points, how it is a welfare obligation. Because it is a need, because you want your country to be educated, right? You want your country to be educated. You want the people to be skilled enough. You want the people to be aware of their rights. Yes. You want them, if the rights are available, then obviously you will be meeting the social justice aspects also. So you can mention those points over here. Clear? Once you have done this, then the next part will be education as a strategic investment, like economic growth, innovation and research, global competition, demographic dividend. Now, once that part is done, then you will come to the balance, like balancing both of them. It is not that you can restrict to one. You have to balance both. That is why if you are balancing the welfare aspect as well as the aspect of strategic investment, what will help to help in access of quality, equity and excellence, skills, digital expansion and all. So what we need is, we not only need it as a welfare approach, but we also need it as a perspective where the strategic investment perspective is there, which helps us in the economic growth as well as development of the country as a whole. So this is the important aspect which we talk about from the perspective of social justice. So I guess it is clear. These are the 3 questions which are present here. And thank you so much. I really appreciate and love that even you people, I get all my old students who love me so much and they keep on messaging. So it's really beautiful. Thank you so much, Bache. Thank you, Mayank and all. Whatever queries you have, you're always there to help you, whether it is with respect to anthropology, geography or society. These are the 3 subjects that I teach. And hopefully this discussion which I have done will be helpful for you. The PDF that I have just written on will be available with you in a description link of this particular YouTube video. If not, if it takes time, I'll be adding this to the my Telegram group. So I will add there so you can download it from there, because the structuring which I have done will be useful for you. Remember one thing, structuring of the answer is very important, right? The way you structure the answer, that is how the answer will be, and you will get more marks. There are candidates who do not write a lot of statistics also, still they get good marks, is because they are able to structure the answer well. Just see over here. If you see my questions, whatever I have done over here, I have given you the structure what the answer should be. Structure means a framework. Now over here, malnourishment question is being done. What are the aspects that should be present? If I am doing the aspect over here, tribal, so what should be the aspects here? When you write these dimensions, the examiner will not be in a condition to cut your marks and you will be scoring very well. That is what I need, that is what I expect. So hopefully you enjoyed it, hopefully you liked it. Thank you from Nikhil sir's side and my side also. I would request you to focus, work really hard towards your goal and achieve your goal. And if you need any help, we will always be there to help you out. Lots of love from my side. Take care and Jai Hind.